Welcome back to our story about Beethoven. Let's jump in where we left off. Now, in those days, the elector wasn't quite as important as a king or an emperor, but he was important. He was the ruler of the area where Ludwig lived, and when Ludwig heard that he was to go to court and play for this man, he was terribly excited. "Mother, I cannot believe it. I'm so nervous." "You'll do well," said his mother. "I know you will." Even Ludwig's father was pleased. At last he thought Ludwig would be well known, and he would make lots of money. So Jan bought Ludwig a fine satin coat and sent the boy to court. So I can get you more pictures. Here we go. No! Okay, moving on. I can't get it to work. Ludwig was dazzled at first. He saw the chandeliers sparkling overhead and the mirrors everywhere. He saw the elegant people crowding the ballroom and the elector sitting in the front of the audience. "Oh, Keys," he whispered, "my legs are shaking. I don't think I can walk to the clavier." "Of course you can walk to the clavier," said Keys. "Just think of the music. You never fail when you think only of the music." Ludwig went to the instrument. Tilted. He sat down, and his hands were trembling when he began to play. But once he heard the notes coming from the elector's marvelous clavier, which was so much better than the old one at home, Ludwig forgot to be nervous. Keys was right. Ludwig could not fail when he forgot everyone and everything but the music. There was silence for an instant when Ludwig finished playing. The audience began to applaud. "Bravo! Bravo!" cried the courtiers. "You did it!" cried Keys. "Ludwig, you did it! Look, even the elector is clapping." "I've been so fortunate," said Ludwig to Keys when the great day was over. "People have given me so much, lessons, a place to practice, and a chance to play at court." So Ludwig went on practicing and composing. Then one day Neef arrived with the word that he was to play the clavier in the court orchestra. "It doesn't pay much," said Neef, "but it's a great honor." "Honor!" shouted Jan von Beethoven when Ludwig told him the news. "Who cares about honor? Money, that's what counts." "But it's a great opportunity," cried Ludwig. "Ugly fellows like you need every opportunity that comes their way," said his brothers. "Never mind, Ludwig," said his mother. "You are not ugly, and you must go ahead and take the position. I'm proud of you." Ludwig did take the position. And soon he was made assistant court organist, which paid more. But Ludwig didn't want to stay in Bonn forever, not even as court organist. "There's still so much I don't know," he told Keys. "I want to go to Vienna," that's in Austria, "and study with the great masters." Ludwig began to save what money he could, and when he was 17 he took all that he had saved and some money he borrowed, and he told his mother that he was going to Vienna. That's wonderful, Ludwig," said his mother. She wanted him to have his chance to be a great musician, but she would miss him very much. She tried not to show that she was sad as he set off for Vienna, carrying a letter from the elector to the great composer Mozart. "Not many people get a chance to play for Mozart," said Keys. Of course, the cat went to Vienna too, for pretend. "I'm a very lucky young man," said Ludwig. "I'm also a very nervous young man." Isn't it great how even though Beethoven went through some sad things, I mean, he lost his grandfather, and his dad, who should have encouraged him, was selfish and mean, but Ludwig still chose to look at the good things and look at what he had to be thankful for. And he was saying, "Look how blessed and happy I am right now." What a good attitude. That's a good example for us, isn't it? Okay, so he goes to see Mozart. Exciting. "Very well, sir," said Mozart when Ludwig presented himself and his letter. "Let me hear what you can do." Ludwig sat down at the piano, and he began to play, and it was like his performance at court. The moment the music began, Ludwig forgot to be nervous, and that's usually how it works. You're usually nervous before you get started, but once you get in the middle of things, that nervousness goes away. It works like that in our shows, too. "You play well," said Mozart when Ludwig was finished. "I would like you to stay in Vienna. I would like to teach you." Mozart not only taught Ludwig, he also saw to it that the boy met other musicians. Ludwig had a wonderful time talking to gifted people and going to fine concerts. "One day I'll bring my mother to Vienna," Ludwig told Keys. "I'll take her to see the sights, and I'll give her all sorts of beautiful things." "You should," said Keys. "Look at everything she's given you." But even while Ludwig was dreaming of the fine time he would have with his mother, a letter arrived at the inn where he was staying. Ludwig opened the letter and felt a great sadness. "My mother is very ill," he told Keys. "I must go home right away." Hurried back to Bonn, and not long after he arrived, his mother died. Now, for the first time in his life, music failed to comfort Ludwig. His mother had been the one person who had always given him love, and now she was gone. Ludwig went to the cathedral to practice every day, but he went as if he were walking in his sleep. On his way, he passed a beautiful garden filled with flowers and trees, and sometimes he and Keith sat there and rested and thought of his mother. Ludwig was sitting in the garden one day when he heard a soft voice say, "Is something the matter?" Ludwig turned to see a lady standing in the garden. "You look so sad." "Oh, you look so sad," said the lady. "My name is Frau von Brüning, and this is my garden. Tell me what's troubling you." The lady looked kind, so Ludwig told her about his mother. "I understand," said Frau von Brüning. "My dear husband passed away not long ago, and I felt a great sadness. Why don't you come and meet my children and stay for supper with us?" Ludwig was happy not to have to go home to his own cheerless house. He was glad to meet Frau von Brüning's 4 children, and he was pleased that they seemed to take a liking to him. "Welcome, Ludwig!" they cried, and they showed him into the dining room. "What nice people," said Keys, who watched as they laughed and chatted during supper. Ludwig had not been so happy since he left Vienna, and when Frau von Brüning heard that he was a musician, she insisted that he play for them. Ludwig did play, and for the first time in months he felt joyful about his music. "Ah," said Keys, "that sounds like my friend Ludwig again." "How very beautiful," said Frau von Brüning, and she and her children offered Ludwig their friendship, a friendship that was to last a lifetime. Ludwig found new courage after that evening with the Brünings. He worked with fresh inspiration at his composing, and in the days that followed he met a man named Count von Waldstein. The Count was very rich, and he loved music. He was greatly impressed with Ludwig, and one day he decided that he would visit the young man at home and surprise him. It was indeed a surprise. The Count found Ludwig in a shabby house on a mean little street. And mean just doesn't mean angry. It means like kind of run down and not fancy. His room was dark and untidy, with sheets of music scattered over the floor. A battered piano was stuck back in the corner, and Ludwig was hunched over this, working on his newest composition. "What a disgrace," said the Count to himself. "Ludwig von Beethoven is a fine musician. He shouldn't have to use such a dreadful old instrument." Ludwig looked up then, and he saw the Count. He leaped to his feet and invited his guest to sit down. He tried to pretend that everything was all right, but he was terribly embarrassed. "I'm glad we don't have lots of company," said Keys. "It is messy in here." A few days later, 2 husky men called upon Ludwig and delivered a beautiful new piano. "For me?" Ludwig was quite stunned at the sight of the marvelous instrument. "But there must be some mistake. I didn't order a piano, and I have no money to pay for one." "It's a gift," said one of the men, "from the Count von Waldstein." Of course, Ludwig was thrilled. He soon learned that there were other surprises in store for him. Count von Waldstein saw to that, and so did the Elector. First, Franz Joseph Haydn, a truly great musician, visited the Elector, and Ludwig had a chance to play for him. Then, when Haydn offered to give Ludwig lessons, Count von Waldstein sent Ludwig off to Vienna so that he could study with him. What's more, he made sure Ludwig had enough money to live while he was there. Ludwig started his lessons with Haydn as soon as he settled in Vienna. Soon other great musicians learned about Ludwig, and they offered to share their knowledge with the young man. "So many people are generous with me," said Ludwig to himself. "The least I can do is give something to those who need it." So when he could, Ludwig sent money to his father and his brothers who were at home in Bonn. Soon Ludwig was giving more than money. He was giving pleasure to many people, for those who heard of his music came from far and near to listen to him play. "Bravo!" they would shout. "Encore! Play more, Beethoven!" But then, just when everything was going so well for Ludwig, a very sad thing happened. It started gradually. At first, Beethoven wasn't even sure about it. "It may be my imagination," he said to Keys, "but I don't seem to hear as well as I used to." "Not hear well?" said Keys. That's terrible. You must go see a doctor right away. Ludwig did go see a doctor. He went to see many doctors. They looked sad and they shook their heads. Sorry, Herr von Beethoven, they said, but there is nothing we can do. In time, you will be completely deaf. Keys, what will happen to me? Cried Ludwig. I'm only 30 years old. I've hardly started my work. What will I do? Poor little Keys didn't know the answer. Each day, Ludwig's hearing grew worse. At last, Ludwig couldn't hear the piano any more. The only thing he could hear was Keys, and that was because Keys was in his own imagination. Keep trying, Keys would say. Please keep trying. But it was so hard. Ludwig could not imagine his life without music. He became terribly depressed. He would go out of the house, he wouldn't go out of the house, and he wouldn't let his friends come to see him. Come now, Ludwig, Keys said at last. Are you going to sit and feel sorry for yourself for the rest of your life? So many people have given you so much to help you develop your talents. Perhaps it's time you gave something back. Then Ludwig remembered the love that he had had from his mother and the adventures with his grandfather. He recalled the lessons he had had from his father's friend Tobias and from Herr Neef. And the Elector has been so good to me, he said to Keys, and Frau von Breunig, and Mozart, and Haydn, and Count von Wallenstein. You're right. They have given me so much, I can't let it go to waste. Soon Ludwig's friends heard that he was composing again. I can do it, he said to Keys. I can hear the music in my mind, and it is good. I told you so, cried Keys, and it is beautiful. It's the most beautiful music you ever wrote. Some people have said that the music Beethoven wrote after he became deaf is the most beautiful music anyone has ever written. You should be happier now, said Keys. You are giving your gifts to the world. It's certainly better than brooding, which means sitting around feeling sorry and just only thinking about the sadness. But there is one thing I would like to do, and I'm not sure I can do it. I would like to conduct my 9th symphony. People were startled when they heard about this, and they were not encouraging. How can you conduct an orchestra if you cannot hear the music? Said some of Ludwig's friends. Better to forget it. Don't pay any attention to them, Ludwig, whispered Keys. Lots of people thought you couldn't compose either after you lost your hearing. And I did, didn't I? Said Ludwig. So I will conduct. But when Ludwig stood up in front of the orchestra, the musicians were very, very nervous. They watched as Ludwig signaled for the symphony to begin. Their eyes were on him as they began to play, and the music was so clear in Ludwig's mind that he conducted beautifully. The music went on, and Ludwig knew every note. He and the orchestra performed together like one marvelously tuned instrument, and at that moment there was nothing for Ludwig but his symphony, and then it was over. Ludwig stood, still facing the orchestra. Now that there was no more music, there was silence for him. But then one of the musicians came to him and turned him around so that he faced the audience. He saw that everyone was standing and clapping. He saw that some people cheered and others wept with delight. You were wonderful, whispered Keys. You've given the world something that will last forever. And Keys was right. Beethoven's music is so beautiful that people enjoy it today as much as they did then. Of course, not everyone can give the world great music as Beethoven did, but sooner or later, everyone has the opportunity to give something to make someone else happier. Your gifts may be very simple, but if they make someone happy, you will probably be happier too. And if someone gives you a gift of time or money or attention, try to receive it with joy. It's more fun that way for the one who is giving the gift, and more fun for you too. Giving is like lots of other valuable things. It has to work both ways. Hope you enjoyed our story about Beethoven, and I hope that you learn not to give up when things get hard. I hope that you learn to be thankful, and I hope that you learn to look for ways you can give. See you next class. Bye-bye.